Hello, Sabine Star Wars. How are you? Hope you're doing well today. Give me a second here while I turn the music down. Check, testing, check. Hello, Sabine Star Wars. How are you? Give me a second. Turn the music down. And actually switch songs. Let me see this. Hold on. Hold on. Be right back. Hold on. Okay, alright. So we should be hopefully good. What did you say? I'm curious how the next episode is gonna go between Sabine and Ezra. Will they actually open up? You know what I mean? Yeah, you know what I mean? She always has to be so strong, doesn't always tell anybody. I'm just trying to get my music together. Yeah, you know what I mean? I did like her reaction when she seen Ezra for sure, but um, but yeah. Hope everybody's doing well today. Hope you all had a good week this week. Walking into the weekend, I worked this weekend, so I needed to do the stream today. Give me another second. I just feel like the music might be a little loud. Hope everybody's doing well today. Hope you all had a good week this week. Just really feel like the music is like overpowering, so I'm trying to fix it. But yeah, walking into the weekend, I really can't wait. Like I work the next 4 days after today, so I can't wait to knock out work and see what my weekend holds. Who knows for sure. Still kind of dealing with some stuff here back at home, but in the midst of that, like I've been saying, like the Ahsoka series, Star Wars has been my escape from reality, even just for a little bit. So I'm looking forward to episode 7 next week. But today, guys, we must talk about episode 6, Far Far Away. Such a great episode. The past, for me at least, I would say for me, every episode has been good and or great, even excellent, but the past 3 weeks have been very, very 1000% phenomenal. Guys, must talk about episode 6. Alright, I think the music's pretty fair. So you good? A little bummed after the episode though. Oh shoot, it's canceled. Okay. Hey, I mean, if you can the music's fine, thank you. Okay, cool. Yeah, if you can, maybe possibly even keep keep watching the show from that free app, then great, cuz even $10 a month adds up over time. And we do realize that, something like Disney Plus, they did bump up their monthly subscription to like, I think like $2 extra or something like that. I recently got the email last week, I think it was. And I'm just like, oh, here we go again. Everything keeps going up. And, me who works a regular 9 to 5, I'm still, making little kibbles and bits, 50-cent raises every year, not doing any real damage to my monthly income that, keeps me comfortable, She is. She really is. We'll talk about that too. But let me exegete my face from the screen. We're going to dive into the images. I did record a couple of things that I wanted to also focus on that we'll talk about here. But let's dive into this far, far away episode. Let's see, make sure that this is, nope, it's not fit. Okay. You love every episode. Yep. Like I said, for the most part, for me, the show's been literally like 9.5 out of 10. A couple episodes have been technically 20 out of 10. There's just been a couple of things where it's just like, kind of lasted a little too long, but that's the very, very small nitpick. The reason why it's, I give it 9.5 in total out of the 6 episodes. But the opening, we see the Purrgil here. They are flying with Ahsoka and Huyang in the mouth of the Purrgil, and I hate it. It's like everything's going up. Everything's going past $10 a month. I hate it. All right. But we also too, during the beginning episode, we get the streak line of them, of us seeing them flying through hyperspace here, just like at the end of episode 5, the following week. I like that too. But their conversation, because I felt like it needed to be talked about. You have iPhone. I do not actually have Android. I actually have something that I use through my Android that I'm able to watch even, some free movies that even debut in theaters like the day of. So if I feel like I can't make it to the theater, then I'll be more than likely watching a little bit on my break at work and then the rest when I get home. So there's a few movies that I did watch. So most recently was Equalizer 3. I watched that yesterday, and that was at the comfortability in my home here. But yeah, the conversation here between Huyang and Ahsoka, where they were just talking, talking about life, talking about various things. But the key thing to note, something that I was curious about, was the fact that, when Ahsoka, and let me see if I can, I think I can pull it up on the imagery here, my pics. Last week when Ahsoka got out and she woke up after being, basically like knocked out for a day. Where are you? She had used the Force to basically see in the past, and be able to sense everything that occurred between Sabine and Balin. She had that conversation with Huyang here, and they had the discussion where she said, there was something that I didn't tell Hera, and that was that Sabine willingly gave up the map. Of course, Huyang says impossible, but I know for sure that her and Sabine definitely will have a heart-to-heart about that, because like I've stated in past videos, even in live stream from even a couple of weeks ago, and even this past week, I think even this past week for episode 5, that due to the fact that Sabine gave up the map, willingly after just, yeah, just really, really quickly, so easily, because she felt like she lost everything. But I always state, she still had Hera, Jason, Chopper, Zeb, and even Ezra still out there in the galaxy, technically in another galaxy, but still he's still out there. She still had, plus she still had Lothal back at home. She's in her, and of course the precious Lothal cat, right? She still had all of that stuff, but she felt like, her world was crumbling. And, my initial thought is, what would Ahsoka's response be? And Ahsoka basically was saying to Huyang that this was her, I believe she said something on the lines of, this was her destined fate or something like that, if I remember correctly, per the scene. And even Huyang said to her that, the Force does do specific things in such a way. I'm more than likely going to do a video on this, but he basically says that, Huyang says that, the Force more than likely, that it was basically the only choice that Sabine had, and that was to give it the map. Because, like I said before, she couldn't destroy the map, because the only way that you can really technically destroy that map, and I'm going to go back and pull it up, is this way. Balin uses his lightsaber to destroy the map. Yeah, yeah, right, Sabine, right, correctly. This was the only way to destroy it, because it was still endowed with Night Sister magic at the time. So there was no way that Sabine would have done any real damage. She would have more so hurt herself more by holding the map the way that she did here. I'm going to re-show it. She's holding it, you know what I'm saying, like where she could literally damage her hand more than damage the map itself. So there was no way that she could have destroyed this map at all. So that was basically out the window. The show pretty much answered our question when Ahsoka was saying to Sabine, destroy the map. So there was just no way. So yeah, I feel like they're gonna have that conversation at some point. They're going to really have a heart to heart about, Sabine giving up the map so easily. So I'm glad that the episode did touch on it. And then we get the actual title, which is Far Far Away, which of course ties into what Huyang said with the story, where he went into the story and he was just like, long ago in a galaxy far, far away. Yeah, yeah, right, right. Kind of reminds me of Avengers with Doctor Strange when he was talking to um, Tony. Like I said, I'm gonna more likely do a video about that. But then we have Sabine waking. She's laying. Originally, I thought she was sleeping. The way that she was laying, I thought she was sleeping here, but that wasn't the case at all. She wasn't sleeping at all. She was just laying there, and then she eventually she just hopped up because she was just uncomfortable, more than likely bored. Just like, you know what I mean. She has nothing to really do. There's this cell is really small, and then Balin pops up, and they have a slight discussion about, the deal. And this was pretty much short and sweet to the point. But at the end of the day, Sabine walks up to him and she's just like, we had a deal. You're supposed to help me find Ezra, blah blah blah. And he just like smiles and walks away. And then she's yelling, "We had a deal." And then we have Balin coming to the bridge of the ship. And once again, guys, 'cause I'm gonna end up doing a video on it. It's just more so gonna be centered around Balin's one-word responses. Just to let y'all know, just be on the lookout for that. I loved a lot of his one-word responses, and I'm gonna be doing a video on Shin Hati and a little bit as well. I'm gonna try to do that over this weekend if I can, to be able to be pushed out by Monday if possible, just before episode 7 drops. But we are seeing for sure that I personally feel like what I'm going to talk about a little bit more later is that Balin, his mindset continues to draw stronger to this feeling, this call of the Force that has led him to Peridia, while Shin her responses are pretty much just like, this doesn't sound like fun, or this isn't believable, or whatever the case may be. We do get the shot of the robots here once again. And of course, like I said, the conversation with Morgan Elsbeth and Balin, where they're talking about Sabine and how she's just, he basically said that she was impatient. But ultimately, it's to discuss too in this scene about the Purgle gravesite. You know, once they arrive basically at their destination, they come from outside of hyperspace, and we see them, here, but ultimately they originally start to talk about Morgan Elsbeth's people, the Night Sisterhood, Dathomir, all of this stuff. And Balin even says, this is a gravesite, this is where Purgle come to pass away. And we get those very sad, very interesting shots of nothing but Purgle bones in space. I thought that, this spot here was just like, visually was just like, man, like, that sucks, right? And then we pop up to the next scene and have Sabine getting taken from her cell by Shin and crew. They hop into their ship here, fly down to which I do love the look of the ship here. I actually do love the look of the ship. And I always love seeing the actual ships going towards the planet. Always love that part about stuff like this. And of course we get what the ship looks like that they're in. It's more so just quiet, but then we also get a little bit of, because Shin, she really wants to fight. You can just see it in her face. She really wants to fight Sabine. Like, they both look at each other. Sabine gives her the side eye, right? But Shin, she's like, where'd it go? I just had it. She's just looking back at her like, I can't wait to get my hands on you again. Because I kind of feel like she felt like she did sort of kind of best Shin in their fight, sort of. Because she did run off. She could have, I felt like that smoke bomb that she threw, she could have taken advantage of Sabine right there, but she didn't. She just ran. And then they land. They get off the ship, and then we see some Night Sisters. And we see them playing with these 3 small magic-based things here. to this, I feel like this is just let us know what they're gonna be using it for. But you kind of wondered like what were they gonna be using it for, and what was that for? But we get obviously Morgan Elsbeth talking to them. They pretty much just say to them like to in response to her like you've done our people well by achieving this goal, arriving here, grab the map, all of that stuff. But then the one night sister, of course, talks about Sabine, where Sabine Star Wars in the comments was saying and wondering, trying to find it. Sabine Star Wars asks in the comments says, "Is Sabine going to use the Force?" And this is just from this once again the Night Sister talking about Sabine and saying it reeks of Jedi. Of course, Sabine's response, the facial expression, she's like, "Nani?" Like what? Like huh? Like ha? It was just funny, and even Balin and Shin's response is just hilarious too. Um, and then this one says, it is dangerous, and they pretty much take the what you call it and reactivate. I kind of feel like here, this moment possibly could have been taken away until they actually did this. So they actually like really activated it, used it on Sabine. That's what I kind of feel. Like it was still cool to see them do it, but re-watching this scene over and over and over again, I kind of felt like over time I was just like, we could have had them just like kind of just chilling and then turned around and then revealed you know this and then attaching it to Sabine. That's what I kind of feel. If they see her as a threat and they are calling her a Jedi, then I think it's going to happen. She will use the Force in some way, maybe next episode, maybe pretty much. That's I've been saying since technically since episode two, but really since episode three, they were really driving home that Sabine is Force sensitive. She did use the Force against Shin in their fight in episode four, but it was just like a slight, very very slight push. It wasn't really nothing, and that's when Shin was just like, "You have no power." But she did use it, but it was just like it was kind of like she threw a rock at her, and it a little pebble or something. It didn't do any real damage at all. But that's but with that, once they attach her to this thing and take her, and she's yelling at Balin like, we had a deal, made a promise, blah blah blah. And even Balin's response here, the facial expressions, I love this moment here when he was looking in, had a little bit of concern because he's walking into now un unterri unterritory like waters or whatever, kind of what I'm trying to say. Excuse me, uncharted waters. That's what I'm trying to say. So, yeah. Give me 1 second. Um, so once she gets in this new, she goes. That's the crazy thing. Sabine goes from a very very small room with with an uncomfortable bed to a little bit of a bigger room, but still, with like, I want to say no bedding. I think, if I remember, she just had the steps and the little mini window that she has here. Where'd it go? Yeah, the little mini window. She does try to use the force. We know that for sure. Once again, I kind of got ahead of myself. Um, I'm backtracking. So Sheen and Balin have a very interesting conversation here that I love a lot, and I need to do a video on, where they talk about the Jedi Temple. They talk about the folk tales and stuff. Balin's talking about, this place is supposed to be kid stories. It's supposed to kind of be like not real, basically. And something interesting that Shin decides to say during their conversation. In the midst of what she says, she still then turns and says something else interesting. Because, like I said, Balin is more so saying, this world is supposed to be out of reach. It's supposed to not be real. It's supposed to not be true, basically. And she says in response, she says, well, maybe that's what it is. Stories just need to be stories. And Balin, he chuckles and smiles. I love that response, because there technically are certain stories that, even if they are true or are real, some people can't really handle, can't understand, will never believe, even possibly if they even saw it, type of stuff. There are certain things even in the Star Wars universe that people should just take for face value as just being just a story, just a myth, when only a handful of people are actually going to actually experience something like this, and may not be able to live to tell the tale, type of thing. Or they will, but people will still sit there and say, oh, that person's out of their mind. It's just all folk tales, just all kid stories. That's what it's always going to be. So I did like, I did like this a lot during the scene. But then we get back to, and also the fact that, when Sheen was asking Balin, like, hey, is it our turn? That's what she was asking Balin. Is it our turn? And Balin's response is, if the stories are true, we shall see. And then we go back to Sabine back at the cell, back at her new cell, where there's no bed in here, nowhere to really lie down. She would have to lie on the ground. But then eventually she's actually, even here, she's trying to use the Force to communicate with Ahsoka. She calls out to Ahsoka, even trying to attempt. The Force is still not willing to open up, or allow her to actually receive the Force in such a way. But she does call out to Ahsoka here, tries to attempt to, at least, and then she hops up, and then she goes to look to use the Force once again, and it was a slight, very, very slight sound of rocks kind of moving, as if the door was going to nudge open for her to try to look to escape. And then we get, because she turns around, we see something coming through the window. And that's when we get the first confirmation of the homie. Now, I talked about this in last week's prediction stream, just literally like 10 minutes just before the episode had debuted. That my prediction for episode 6 was that Thrawn was going to show up at the very end, and then we were going to get him because there were, rumors flying around that Lars Mikkelsen had been credited as playing Thrawn for 2 episodes during this show. And yeah, we get everybody outside. Like I said, Sabine's in her cell. Everybody's looking at what's coming, and then that's when we get the very grandiose Chimera pop up, because I did say too during the prediction that we possibly might see the Chimera, maybe a small percentage, possibly might see the Chimera in the episode. For sure was going to see it more than likely for sure in the show, but just not this week. And that eventually it would attach itself to the hyperspace ring to be able to travel where it's going to go. But we get the front, and then we get the side of it. Definitely needs work, but it can at least fly. So beautiful, right? Still so beautiful, even though so damaged. But we get the Chimera here. Yes, of course. I feel like maybe possibly like they swap. Like, we know that Ezra was feeling Sabine in Rebels, and like he loved her as boyfriend and girlfriend, but she wasn't feeling him at the time. So maybe they swapped, because he says in the hologram, like, you are like a sister to me, blah blah blah. But we'll dive into that conversation in a little bit, because I feel like even her reaction was, yeah. But yeah, the Chimera is here. We see everybody watching as it comes to attach itself to the here, and then we see them walking towards. Who are walking towards? So those troopers, I'm pretty sure, are like Merrick. Yep. Dead troopers. Yep. Definitely. Death troopers. We see the army. The music is about to go real quick, because I'm gonna pull up the actual video here. Give me a second. Maybe I can pause the music. I can do that, maybe. I'm gonna pause the music and actually pull up. Well, not that. That's not what I want. Let's see here. I have a few things in here, actually. A few spots that were just like so dope, so cool, right? That's not it. Okay. So when Thrawn, we see, all of this stuff happening. We see the Death Troopers. We see Enoch turn around. And then we see my Grand Admiral, if you're really truly a huge fan of his, our Grand Admiral. We see my Grand Admiral strutting between all of it. Now it was just interesting though. I have to pause it. It's real interesting that these troopers are they're chanting Thrawn's name. Thrawn is not somebody who looks for glory. He doesn't seek glory. It's even one of his quotes. You know what I mean? He's all about consistency, all about proficiency. He doesn't care for the glory. He doesn't care. But I honestly do think that he is probably at a place where he's just letting them do it, because again, they're death troopers. They don't they're not free thinkers. And what does Thrawn say when he arrives? Um, Give me a second. Give me one moment. Because I thought I had the quote. He says, "What was first just a dream has become a frightening reality for those who may oppose us." Such an interest, first and foremost, in such a great quote by the legend, by my Grand Admiral. And like I said, I just love how he just walks until we get the front and him coming up to say what he says here. And I love it a lot. I really, really do. Truly, truly. I truly do. Love it a lot. Um, so, yeah. Yo, what's going on to the legend, Will? How are you? Welcome to the stream. Hope you're doing well today. But like I said, once Thrawn arrives, he then turns to the Night Sisters. He acknowledges them, their existence. He applauds them even. And then of course Morgan does the same for her. And then that's when the interesting conversation comes up of, hey, by the way, you know, there is a hostage that we have. And he's like, I wasn't told of this. And then, the Night Sisters say, basically like, well, we didn't see it, couldn't see it. Because the Force just only shows key specific things. And then Balin steps in and he just says, that was me. I did it. I felt like that she could be useful to us. And then Thrawn's like, who may this be? And Morgan explains that this is Balin, this is Shin, blah, blah, blah. And Thrawn, because he's so in tune with a lot of key information, that's when he says, General Balin Skull. So it just lets us know that Balin during the Clone Wars was somebody of importance, even more. Let me turn the music back on. I think this was it. Let me double check. Yeah. So, and even Balin, his response was, you are General Balin Skull of the Jedi, from the Jedi Temple. And Balin's response is basically that, well, I used to be. Left long ago. And what was Thrawn's response? You wouldn't be the first one. And that's more so talking about Anakin. More so talking about the homie, even though he don't know me. And I'm rhyming accidentally. And then he brings up Sabine, and he's like that. There's a name that I haven't basically heard in a long time. Then they basically bring Sabine to him, And I love this exchange between Thrawn and Sabine, because Thrawn, this is still my Thrawn, your Thrawn. At the end of the day, he's having specific conversations with Sabine. He even mentions talking about how Sabine makes a specific decision that will shape the galaxy, basically, right? But at the same time, he does say, well, I was, been given information on the fact that Balin made a promise to you, so I'm going to hold that promise. Enoch walks up, takes the cuffs off, and he's saying, you basically helped me in my cause. I helped you in your cause. He says, you helped me in my cause, or in our cause, so now I'm going to help you in yours. He even bows to Sabine here in acknowledgement of that. As a, basically as saying, as a thank you, I'm going to let you go on ahead and leave. But then that's when Sabine's just like, he says to her, I even put the video out earlier today, I have key information on where Ezra, his last or even current whereabouts, on the planet. Just enough information, basically. But, Sabine's response is, if you survived, I know that he's pretty much okay. He's good. He's cool. And Thrawn walks up to her and just says, on the lines of, you are, your belief, that belief is strong in you. Basically, that's what he's saying. And Sabine's response is, you wouldn't understand. And he does say perhaps, but he says perhaps not. And I'm like, we were so close to getting my Grand Admiral from saying the actual just plain word of perhaps. We were so close. But technically it does say perhaps, and then another word or a few words after in the canon books, but it's okay. And then that's when Sabine asks, what kind of rod do we have? Oh, guess what? It's a howler. Now, in my Thrawn group chat, they did bring up the Vornskers. I don't have images. You can probably look them up online or Wikipedia or something like that. These howlers sort of resemble Vornskers, Vornsker animals. And I do love that Enoch is with her, and even saying, like, he tells her, like, if I remember correctly, he says something on the lines of, it's basically dangerous. I think he did say something like, good luck in death or something like that. Something about dying or death or something. I can't remember specifically, but it was just something that I thought was cool and how he said it to her. And then the door gets open. She leaves. But then we see that Thrawn and crew are watching her. And this is what I'm talking about with Thrawn. He lets her go. Even if Balin and Shin weren't here, he more than likely, 99% sure, would have let Sabine go. Because that's how Thrawn functions and operates. Because if having a prisoner just doesn't sound just logical, then yeah, he's gonna let somebody even like Sabine go. But at the same time, he sees that Balin and Shin are here, but it ties more into what he's going to talk to Morgan Elsbeth with a little bit later. But he's having the conversation with them about the fact that, you we let her go, but then Shin's all like, "Oh, we're not keeping this promise of us going after her." But Thrawn says, "No, it's okay. If if she finds Ezra, or when she finds Ezra, you two are gonna go after him. Oh, go after them and take them out. Because again, he's Thrawn is still upholding to what they wanted to do anyway. Because his ultimate goal is to leave Peridia, the planet, and leave the galaxy that they're currently residing in. So that's how Thrawn functions and operates. And then we get where Sabine is traveling with the Howler here, and she gets into the fight with some planetary, the locals, basically. Probably even call them bandits or something like that. They tried to go after her, take her out, more than likely take her stuff and be on their way. But she falls off the Howler. The Howler ends up leaving, and she's there to fend for herself. Of course, she's upset that the Howler left her, which is understandable. But I do love these spots here with it once again reminds me of the lightsabers with the not just the flashing when the lightsabers connect, but the sparks. So we get more sparks. Same thing what happened in episode 4 between Shin and Sabine in their fight. So a lot of back and forth shooting and stuff like that. So let me see. You're saying Sabine Star Wars says also he doesn't care about any other Jedi, Dark Jedi, or whatever you want to call them. We're gonna get a really good fight. Yep. Yeah. Emotional, yeah. Pretty much. We're pretty much gonna have a rematch between Ahsoka and Baylan, rematch between Shin and Sabine for sure. We're gonna get all of that. If not next episode, for sure, the final one. I do love this spot here that I got. Probably gonna use it as a thumbnail. I automatically knew. I was like, well, I'm gonna use that as a thumbnail. But I do love Sabine blocking with her Mandalorian, the Beskar and stuff like that. This was just cool. This is always cool because Mando does it a lot. So it's just great. But once she takes them out, even with her lightsaber, she did her thing with the lightsaber here. Even does a roundhouse kick. And she even frightens one off after taking out his little stick there. And he runs off. Her thing gets busted. And then we get Baylan and Shin on their way. And then, like I said, we get the conversation between Morgan and Thrawn, where at the end of the day, Thrawn tells Morgan, because she's like, well, maybe we can send extra resources to help out Baylan and Shin. Thrawn pauses for a brief moment, and he's like, look, that's not what it is. It's a okay idea. But at the end of the day, I'm trying to get back home, son. Now, granted, it's not the unknown regions. It's not Chila. It's not Chiss space. He even says it. I don't even care. He said it's not about whether Sabine or Ezra survives or even your mercenaries survive. At the end of the day, it's about me and these death troopers getting out of this galaxy. That's what he tells Morgan. And that's why in my video today where I talk about that, it's just like he already expunged some resources on Ezra more than likely. And yeah, he just kind of was just like, oh, you know what? I'm cool. I'm gonna just focus on what I need to focus on moving forward. Because we know that Ezra doesn't stay in one spot, and he's like not trying to keep chasing after him when he could be using his resources for other more important things. But I do love this part where the Howler came back and Sabine's going off on it. Told it to go away, which it did walk away, but it ends up coming back. Like I said, it was just hilarious that I saw this occur. Followed her. She already knew. You could see it in her face. She rolls her eyes, all of that stuff. And yeah, just hilarious. And she's just like, well, this is your world, blah, blah, blah. The Howler sniffs in the air. And then we get, we get the Noti. Where the Noti are these rock-like creatures. Well, not so much rock-like creatures, but they have shells. They're kind of like turtles, I guess. And yeah, we do get the fact that the Nalti recognize the rebel symbol, points at the one that it's wearing. Sabine notices it too, and then she notices, like, oh, y'all know Ezra, where is he at? Blah, 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 take me to him. Kind of cute, the Howler and Sabine. Yeah, right. Pretty much, yeah. That one was definitely for the kids, right? But then we switch to Baylan and Shin, where they have another interesting conversation. Another one that I talked about. This is another thing that I talked about in another video on the channel that you go find. Where Shin basically asks and talks to Baylan about the Jedi Order again. Ask him, do you miss it? And Baylan's response is, I miss the idea. Now there was that slight pause too when he was responding. He says, I miss the idea, but not the weakness behind the idea. And they also bring up the fact that too, that Shin was actually not at the Jedi Temple. That was what a lot of people were thinking that she was. So a lot of people were assuming that Shin was his daughter. Now, there's no real specification still on whether that is true or not. And he does tell her, like, you weren't brought up in the Jedi Temple in the ways. You came afterwards. But I kind of feel like she isn't his daughter. He just found her and trained her in some of the Jedi stuff. She has the Padawan braid because he still holds on to. I even talked about this in another video to look up on the channel, where he still believes in the idea of the Jedi, but he is focused on more than likely staying at Peridia, gaining the power from basically, say, not even from Thrawn, because it's another thing that I'm going to be talking about in the video too, but both him and Thrawn have different views on each other, and Baylan wants to more than likely start his own Jedi Order in his own image and likeness. And he even tells Shin here, like, again, you weren't trained per the Jedi Temple standards. I trained you to be something more. So it's just like, this is why I keep saying Baylan is becoming more and more one of my favorite Force users of all time, and he's one of a few that I'm still getting to know. 6 episodes into the show, his thoughts, his responses, and how he carries himself is just different. Kind of reminding me um, of a little bit of sounding a little bit like Qui-Gon. And Qui-Gon technically is like my favorite Jedi of all time, and then comes Anakin. But that's just for me. A lot of people have Anakin as top notch, Vader is top notch, but um, but when they're discussing about, when Balin's telling Shin that, there's something out here, something that is drawing me to it. Can't you feel it? Can't you hear it? The they he even tells her like they are fleeing something that they don't truly understand, and I am looking to gain that knowledge, that power, whatever this power actually is. Still don't really necessarily know exactly what it is, but I still have a sense though that Balin wants to create. He even talks about here when they're looking, um, way back here. Let me go back to it because again, it's still prevalent to what I'm talking about. Even back here when they're discussing it, he says to her that I'm looking to cut off basically the weakness from the Jedi view, looking to end that Jedi mindset, that weakness. This is what he means. And he's looking to create something stronger, something more substantial from his point of view, more logical, more powerful. Because I was always wondering the question, like, did did Balin care for specific people back at the Jedi Temple? And I feel like he did. But then, of course, we get the part where Shin says, there are bandits or whatever the case, and Balin's like, hold on, the enemy of our enemy is our friend. We're gonna use them to get our goals met. But then we finally switch back to Shin and the Noti, and we get them walking. A lot of fans and I sort of kind of agree. Kind of felt like it was just super easy to find Ezra. But I kind of feel like the writers probably were just like, oh, we're just gonna have her just meet the Noti, go to their village, blah blah blah. This is just gonna be something that simple and easy. But I kind of feel like it was just too quick of a, you know what I mean. And then he says, I knew you could do it. Basically, I knew you could find me. And her response, is great. It is one of my hope and my longing to find you. You know what I mean? It all of this stuff that I've been through. It's 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 happened. It's here. I've reached my goal of getting to you. You know what I mean? But again, her response to me in this moment is not doesn't to me at least to me, many, probably a few others, it doesn't feel like a family centered response. It literally, like I said, it kind of feels like they've swapped. Like Ezra treats her like a sister, but Sabine now is treating him like a lover. Like it's like my feelings for you are stronger. This is what I've wanted. I wanted to be in your presence again. I wanted to, have conversation with you again because I missed you so much. I wanted to hug you, hold you in my arms again. But again, at the same time, all of this could just be still family based. The fact that, my brother, I found you. You're here. You're alive. We even have the novelty like, oh my gosh, like they're get a room, right? But But then they have, like I said, they have these conversations and stuff like that, and the fact that too that um, Ezra tells them, hey, time to pack up and roll. Because what does he say to Sabine here? He says, we never stay in one place for too long. Maybe a few days, maybe even a week, and then they just keep moving. I felt like Ezra knew the writing on the wall. Just like, okay, Sabine's here, then that must mean somebody else knows, and yeah, I need to. Because she even says, like, when he asked her how did she get here, and she says, can we not talk about that right now? Can I just not, you know, bask in this moment of just getting back into your presence? Yeah. And then we get the end of the episode where Thrawn is talking to the Night Sisters, and they bring up the fact that Ahsoka's on her way. And Thrawn's response was very interesting. I'm gonna pull it back up. I'm actually gonna pause the music in a second. His response is very interesting because look how he's standing, right? But at the same time, like, so I'm gonna take this music out here. But it's just the reaction. Let me pull it back up. Excuse me. So, Thrawn's reaction. Yeah, look at Sabine's response. She turns around. It's that smile. It's just like it's you. Like blah blah blah. This is what I was talking about. I felt like more so like she looked at him like, oh, it's my lover, more than just like my brother. Um, yeah. But then we get this here. They tell Thrawn he he says that's not, that doesn't basically sound like saying when they bring up the fact that Ahsoka is coming again. It's not in the works. It doesn't sound like a good thing towards his goals of getting off the planet. He Even Morgan's response is of fear and just like, oh my gosh, you know, saying she did say out loud like Balin promised me. He looked me basically in my face and told me that he took Ahsoka out. But Thrawn's response here is look at the pause. He paused for 6 seconds, guys. I counted. Let's count together. After he says what he says. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then he speaks. This, to me, is once again something that is canon Thrawn focused. We are getting various variations of Thrawn in live action form in this one episode, and this is one of them because Thrawn's responses in the canon were exactly like this. In the canon books, the Ascendancy books, sometimes he stood there as if he was staring out in space, but he was actually more so processing to be able to come up with more of a logical response. Because he doesn't technically, Rebels Thrawn, his response to the one, I can't remember his name, when he spoke in anger, he usually he doesn't do that really like ever. And this is how my Grand Admiral responds. He deduces that, okay, this wasn't in the cards. He has his own way of filtering things in his brain so that he can be able to, like I said, deduce on what would be the best solution and route and how he would respond even in this moment. Like I said, 6 seconds. I'll do it again just because I just love it a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then he speaks. He puts his hands behind his back. He then turns to Morgan after she says that, oh, well, Balin promised me that she was taken out, blah, blah, blah. And they're having a specific conversation. So I just loved Thrawn's response here. I loved it a lot. I really, really did. Like, a lot. I think she actually finally fell for him all those years. Yeah. Pretty much that's really what I feel like it can be, but at the same time, the writers can be like, oh, it's just the fact that she missed him or whatever, blah blah blah. But then another video that I did about this conversation where Thrawn talks about Morgan brings up Ahsoka and Thrawn's like, I basically never, I want to say, if I remember correctly, said on the lines of like, I don't know who she is, really her background, because he wasn't around Anakin or Ahsoka during the Clone Wars. So that's when he tells Morgan, like, I want to know any and everything about her, who she is, basically how long she was at the temple, and key thing, who was her master. And once he finds out who her master is, yes, I'm waiting to see what his response is going to be. Because he genuinely did care for Anakin. Genuinely. And then he turns to the Night Sisters and tell them, I want to receive your Night Sister magic once again. I must rely on it once again. I'm gonna switch to a different music now. And I'm coming back on. So, yeah, guys. Yes. Such a great episode. I really, really loved episode 6 this week. I done watched it a few extra times. And truly, genuinely can't wait for episode 7 on Tuesday. Yes. I genuinely just cannot wait for episode 7 on Wednesday. We're 2 weeks left, and then technically we don't have anything Star Wars coming out yet. Now there's some specific rumors on the writer strike that I just came across as of yesterday. Possibly the writer strike may be coming to the writers and the company that they are looking to get a new contract with, seemingly possibly possibly gonna I'm taking it with a huge grain of salt, but this is what I heard, that they're possibly gonna look to finalize a deal this week, by the end of this week, by today, by the the weekend or beginning of next week, something like that. But again, I'm taking it with a grain of salt. So huge grain of salt until it actually happens. So we're like 140 something days into this writer strike now. So, and like I've stated, truly, people are going to be bored if this writer strike continues. People are going to be bored next year because a lot of people look forward to this entertainment stuff to get their escape from daily life on a monthly basis, even just for a couple of hours, even say go to the movies and stuff like that. There's only probably more than likely but so much stuff that has been finished, in post-production and stuff like that around the time that the summer was ending. And walking into fall. So when it's pertaining to Star Wars content, yes, this is technically it. We were supposed to get the Acolyte right after the Ahsoka series. That's not going to more than likely come out until next year. If this rumor is true that the writer strike deal is going to get finalized within the next few days, hopefully the writers get what they want and they deserve. So yeah. I know parts are gonna, yeah, yeah, it's gonna suck. But look, I'm rewatching Andor. It's a mainstay here on the channel. It's one of my favorite Star Wars uh, content for since last October, November, something like that. So gonna be covering that more here. I'm probably gonna do Andor season 2 teaser trailer uh, video at some point within the next week or so, because I've been meaning to do that. Something else I need to talk to you all about. If you haven't seen the video that I pushed out when it's pertaining to Cyril Karn in season 2, you can check that out here on the channel. I did something with that a few months back. But I'm like I said, I'm actually rewatching season 1 now, so I can get my videos together and stuff like that for at least to talk about season 1 and some stuff that I sort of kind of didn't catch, or rethinking stuff, because Andor was just great to me. And then we still plenty of stuff to talk about when it's pertaining to the Ahsoka series, technically. So and then I can rewatch Mando season 1 and 2 and even 3, and even bring up some stuff about that. And then I have some books here, Thrawn books, a whole bunch of other books that I need to re-dive into or even start and even talk about on the channel. So I have plenty of stuff to do as far as the channel is concerned, in the midst of me still dealing with reality. So just gotta set aside some time and really put in stuff. Which one, Sabine? Which one are you? Which show, or which show are you talking about? Is it Andor? Is it Mando? Which one are you talking about? Let me know. But yeah, guys, episode 6 was great. Episode 5 was great. Episode 4 was great. And technically, 3, 2, and 1 were really good from my perspective. I just have enjoyed every episode, with little slight nitpicks that I really haven't really discussed on the channel, just because I'm just like talking to other friends and other stuff, outside the channel. Because I'm more so, I like to just focus on just key points when it's pertaining to specific things. Try not to bring, negative stuff from my viewpoint to the channel. So but this 40 plus minute episode was great. I loved it a lot. You haven't watched Andor or finished it? Okay. Yeah, definitely put some time in. Check it out. Hopefully you'll like it. It may take a few episodes to get into Andor, but once it picks up, at least for me, I enjoyed episode 1 and 4, but for a few fans out there, it did take a few episodes, and once it really picked up, it stayed the course and even like went higher as far as like story, character development, the writing, and all of that, music, all that stuff. Like, it just, to me, like, man, like, as I always say, Andor is Star Wars. Even where it's, what I'm saying, it's, we know that the Force is what many of us fans gravitated towards, but Andor, there are literally stories out there where there's no Jedi, no Force, nothing, and that's great. There's literally stories, literally books. I have books here at home where there's nothing Jedi in it, and the stories are great. So it's just, that's really all Andor is. It's just these books that I have here at home that are in live action form, and Andor is literally just that great to me. And it's still Star Wars to me, at least to me. I can't speak for anybody else that couldn't get into it. And there are fans out there that actually watched all of the episodes and still felt like it wasn't Star Wars to them, and that's totally fine. It's all perspective of the viewer. I can't sit here and tell somebody that they're not a Star Wars fan because they didn't like something that I liked or loved. and it should be the vice versa, the other way. But fans will sit here and say, "Well, you're not a Star Wars fan because I'm like," so it's like, dude, you're a Star Wars fan. They're a Star Wars fan. There's no levels to this. There's none. There is literally none. Like I keep telling people, like I wish, which I can still attempt to do, but I wish that I was, lore based and diving more into specific things. But I just love specific aspects of Star Wars. But that doesn't make me less of a Star Wars fan because I'm not very knowledgeable in a plethora of the universe, or the whole diaspora of it. You're a Star Wars fan. I'm a Star Wars fan. At the end of the day, whether we are knowledgeable or not, you know what I mean, or whichever. So, but yeah, yeah. Grab it, get the Blu-ray, get the whichever, get it, grab it. I'm actually thinking about getting or what you call it, like a Lego set or something like that. Put it together because I don't have any of that stuff. Never been a collector. More so of books than anything. I have a lot of Star Wars books, but not even really would consider that being collecting. It's just I just love reading books at the end of the day. Like a library has happened to me, to be honest. Just sitting there and just read a book to my heart's content, be at peace. But yeah, episode 6 was great. I loved it a lot. Can't wait. But I'm getting ready to get out of here. Getting ready to rest, relax, for a little bit, and then look to put this one video together that I want to push out on Monday. Like I said, this weekend might be a little bit busy, but it all depends. But I'm out, guys. Sabine, thanks for hanging. Appreciate it. It's been real. Will, thank you for stopping by me just for the brief moment. But I will hopefully talk to you all in the next video and or stream. Stay safe, stay humble, and remember, the Force will be with you.